Hey everybody, Chad here. In this video, we're going to talk about decisions, decision making, how to do it. But anyway, Chad, by the way, I don't know. I think I'm wearing the same shirt in every single video, so I apologize about that. I'm in Thailand, so I was getting my laundry done, so I took like all my tank tops down because it's actually too hot to wear just a normal shirt. For me anyway, it's too hot. But anyway, I was doing my laundry. So waiting for it. So I did like a series of videos, but I have the same shirt on. But anyway, we're gonna talk about decisions, decision making, and kind of not so much how to make decisions, but I think this is a great topic because one, this is something I struggle with as well. And then two, I kind of did a short little series. We really kind of been doing, several videos on, several talks on intuition, how to follow your intuition, how to trust your intuition. And one of the things we did talk about when we talk about intuition is decision. Once you have that gut feeling, follow that gut feeling, make a decision on it, and do what that gut feeling is telling you to do. It could be anything, it could be anything like in relationships or whatever, moving forward with a relationship. What's your gut telling you? You know what I mean? What's that inner voice telling you? And that's really intuition, a voice of God, a voice of the universe, whatever you want to say. But that's how the higher source speaks to us, is through intuition, that gut feeling, that small little voice. And lots of times what happens, and this kind of correlates with decision, lots of times what happens that, I can only talk about myself. I mean, I do talk to a lot of people, so I know kind of, what people generally struggle with, but I can really just talk about myself is that, lots of times our intuition, or that little voice, that tiny little voice gets clouded immensely with our inner chatter, just because we're thinking and overthinking, overthinking the situation, overanalyzing the situation. Then on top of it, a lot of us have an issue, and I have an issue with this too. A lot of us have an issue with, we go around to all of our friends and ask, what would you do? What would you do if you were me? What would you do in this situation? And that just makes things worse. Just because when you ask other people about a decision, most of the time they don't even have that much knowledge to really give you an appropriate response, really. Most of the time people don't know anything, what you're asking them about. I'm not saying you don't get good advice here and there, but when you really talk about intuition, it's not their intuition. Makes sense? If your intuition is leading you to do something, do it. That's how you follow it. You make a decision to follow it. And that's kind of where decision making comes in with intuition. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about decision making, and to kind of help stop the inner chatter, especially if it correlates with intuition, correlates with you wanting something, you want to buy something, relationships or whatnot, whatever you're trying to make up your mind to do. And I think the hardest thing for me, sometimes I'm good at this, and sometimes I fall in a trap, is, once I start, asking one person for advice, I tend to kind of ask many people for advice. Makes sense? So for example, you ask 10 people, well, you're probably going to have 10 different responses. You know what I mean? And that just makes things worse. Then on top of it, we're trying to analyze and overanalyze it, or overthink the situation on top, rather than just make a decision. And this kind of stems more what I think, this kind of stems from childhood. But most of us sometimes were brought up by parents, not saying negative, but really brought up by parents that kind of told you what to do. They made the decisions for you. So when you grew up as an adult, you don't know how to make decisions because your whole life you've had decisions made for you. A lot of us grew up like that. Very few of us grew up where, once we hit maybe a teenager, our parents kind of, if we asked our parents for advice, they kind of flipped it on us and say, well, what would you do? What do you want? Make sense? That's what kind of should be done. But instead, parents just, not saying negative, but parents just, they make decisions for us. Then when we go to school, decisions are made for us. We go to college, most of the time decisions are made for us. So we kind of go through our whole life of decisions being made for us. So that's why we struggle with making decisions ourselves. Makes sense? That's why we struggle with following our own intuition, following our own inner guidance, because we're not used to making a decision ourselves. We're used to other people making the decision for us, or other people trying to validate our decision so we can move forward. So, I mean, one of the things is, like, if you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, I read this book probably 100 times, no joke. I mean, no, I'm not going to be able to quote word for word, but Napoleon Hill says in a book that successful people make decisions very quickly, but they change their mind very, 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 very slowly. Listen to this again. Successful people make decisions very quick, but change their mind, even if they change their mind at all, very, 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 very slow. Okay, so what do we tend to do on this topic? If sometimes for me, it's hard for me to make a decision. I start thinking and overthinking and stuff like that. It causes the inner chatter going on, causes my intuition to kind of dumb down because I can't hear it. And that's basically from indecision. That's basically from I'm not making a decision. Makes sense? I'm kind of like just letting it go and go and go. Rather than once I have that intuitive thought, once I have that intuitive moment, I make a decision, follow it, then don't change my mind. So now we have to kind of talk about another thing with decisions. Another thing that I kind of fall into is that I might make a decision, okay, but I still kind of overanalyze and overthink it because I want to make sure, did I make the right decision? Okay, then even if I make a decision, I might still fall in a trap where I talk to 10 of my friends and say, did I make the right decision? You know what I mean? So we kind of fall in that same trap. Even though we try to make a decision, we still kind of falter in that same trap where we're still overthinking, asking friends for advice. Did I make the right decision? So we're kind of in that same circle, rather than once you make a committed decision, once you make a decision, you're committed to that decision and you just move on. Makes sense? That's a real decision. Okay, that's why Napoleon Hill said in the book Think and Grow Rich is successful people make decisions very quickly. They don't ponder and think for days and overthink and overanalyze. They make decisions very quickly. But if they change their mind, that's a big if, they change their mind very, 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 very slowly. Okay, what do most of us do? And I'm bad at this too. You make a decision, and 2 days later, you change your mind. Makes sense? Or you take forever to make a decision. You might not ever make a decision, but then you change your mind very quickly after you make a decision. Okay? So all this kind of goes hand in hand, to stop the inner chatter, to kind of be able to move forward. Then it also relates to our intuition. I know this is very related to another topic, another video I did on intuition, but it all kind of correlates, it all connects, because I heard this the other day. Like when we talk about intuition, we talk about our inner voice, the voice of God, the voice of a higher source, the voice of a universe, whatever you want to say. We always have the answers within inside us. I heard someone say that and it made total sense. Like we always have any answer that we want. It's always inside us telling us what to do. Okay. But for one, we're not used to listening to that. We're more used to asking other people for advice, which don't have our intuition. We're more into overthinking and overanalyzing, which kind of creates a bunch of chatter in our head. And then on top of it, we don't make a decision to follow it. We don't make a firm decision to follow it, where it's like, okay, I have this intuition to do a certain thing, and I make a decision to do it, and I don't change my mind because I made a decision to do it because I had that intuitive motion to do it. Okay, now it sounds simple, okay, but it's actually very hard. If you're kind of like me, it's actually can be hard if you fell into that habit of constantly asking friends, you fell in that habit of overanalyzing and overthinking. I mean, that can be, No, that can be hard to break. I mean, you can break it, of course, but to just stop the inner chatter. Then two, along with this, with decision making, is just be able to trust. Okay, to 100% trust. I mean, I made a video on let go and let God. Okay, the whole point of letting go is you're trusting. The whole point of letting go, you make a decision, you trust it's going to happen, you trust you made the right decision, you let it go, you make a firm decision, and you just let God handle it. Okay, that's the big key with decision making. That's the big key when we're I don't know, I'm talking in a circle now. but sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. Like, what am I going to talk about now? But those are all the things. Like, I'm in Thailand, so all the things I kind of been struggling with the last couple weeks. But it all kind of relates together. That's why I'm kind of blending all these together. Maybe make different videos on the topic, and you explain it different ways. But if you're kind of like me, my personality, the only way to kind of stop the chatter, the only way to follow your intuition is two things. Okay, simple. Stop asking people for advice, stop overthinking, period. If you stop asking people for advice, okay, it's going to reduce the chatter, because you're not going to have all their stupid opinions in your head, okay? Then stop overthinking. Especially if it's in relationships or whatnot. If we're talking about relationships, if you're overthinking and overanalyzing and you're not talking to the other person, I mean, you're going down a rabbit hole that you're not going to be able to fix. Makes sense? You're going down, and if you start overthinking, overanalyzing, you're not going to be able to answer your questions unless you talk to the other person. So you're really going down a rabbit hole that you're just going to go farther and farther and farther until it drives you crazy, and you're just going to let it go anyway. Okay. So that with that being said, stop asking people for advice, stop overthinking. Okay. Totally trust that you can make a right decision. Firmly trust that when you have an intuitive thought, intuitive motion, if you want the answer and you have a question and your intuition is like, yes, do it, then do it and follow it, make a decision and follow it. That's how your intuition gets better. That's decision making. We make a firm decision, then we move forward. Okay, when we don't make a firm decision, okay, just like I said before, lots of times we fall into a trap. If that decision's not firm, we fall into the same habit. We start asking friends for advice. We start overthinking if we make the right decision. No. You have to practice when you make a decision, you made that decision, and you don't change your mind. Makes sense? With that being said, my friends, hopefully that helped. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I know I kind of ramble sometimes and lose my train of thought, but anyway, peace out, and I'll see you in the next video.